Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to draw the nail on a thumb. So grab your pencils and let's get drawing. The first thing that you want to know when you draw the thumb is, first off we'll just draw the outline of the thumb and we'll kind of make it go this way. So we'll start like that. The thumb is obviously thicker than the other fingers on the hand. And you really just want to make sure that you create a nice outline that you're happy with. So that's what I'm going to do to start. The trick is really to find a nice curvature that you're happy with. You don't want to get it to a point, but you don't want it to be too boxy either. So that's what I'm really trying to establish right here. So this is a great starting point, and I can always fix this up as I need to. Okay. What you also want to do when drawing the thumbnail is just remember that you will have like a bit of a kind of fold over here, and that will kind of be the some of these skin folds that exist right at the joint of the thumb as well. Okay, so we're gonna create that. We're gonna do the nail. So in fact, let's get the nail on there. In this case, I'll draw a nail in which you have just a little bit of skin on the side, just like that. The nail should come in just a bit over here and curve out as well. I'm going light because I definitely want to fix this up. By the way, the nail has four main parts, so that's the matrix, the nail plate, the nail bed, and the skin around the nail. So those are the four main parts of the nail, and that's true for the fingers as well as the thumb. So we're going to basically draw that over here. I would say that at some point, if you're drawing the nail, the thumbnail, this part kind of goes out, but you have to transition from that white part of the nail, which typically, I would say, in most cases, the white part of the nail is going to sit just under the skin. Not under the skin, just before the end of the skin. So I would actually create a line that goes right close to the skin, but doesn't necessarily touch that part. Before I do, I just want to clean up that line. I don't think that that line needs to be very thick, and I think I made it a little thick because I was kind of creating the outline space of the skin, right? So what you want to do is just kind of reestablish that. Okay. So in order to do that, just clean this outer line up. So the outer line is going to be the skin, and the inner line is going to be your nail. I would say that that's like the trickiest part in getting a thumbnail drawn, is just getting this looking nice and tight without looking weird. So that's my kind of advice to you, is just try to get this looking really fine and neat. Okay, so that's what I'm going to try to do right there. Now, what you also want to do is get that white part of the nail drawn. So it might start a little thinner over here and then kind of make its way over. And by the way, it does not have to be perfect. There could be variations in the shape that you see. So don't be afraid to, create that as well. There's nothing wrong with that. I think the side is just a little thicker, and I mean, a nail could be like that. I think mine might be like that, but for the purpose of this drawing, I'm just gonna make it a little more symmetrical to the other side, and I think it might create a better drawing for us. So that's all I'm gonna do, okay? Now, you can also see that what I did was I drew and I think this part is called the cuticle, the piece that's up here, and there's like another skin piece over here. It's almost like you're drawing two separate kind of lines, but they're kind of connected. It's like a piece of skin that is, because the nail really goes underneath, doesn't it? The nail goes under, and this skin goes on top. So that's really what we're drawing. Let's just get rid of that. That was just an instructional line. So we basically have, this skin piece that is over here, right? And over here we want that to fade out. Let me just use a different pencil as well. I want to use my 5B just to create a bit of shadowing over here. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to do is that piece there, I think it's called the cuticle is up there. I can't remember what this piece is called, but it is there. So you typically want to have it kind of come out like that. And there, that's it. That's what you want to do. By the way, nails grow at a rate of 0.1 millimeters per day. So in 10 days, that's 1 centimeter, which in a month is about 30 millimeters, or 3 millimeters per month is how fast. And they grow at 0.1 millimeters per day. Okay, so keep that in mind. There's a lot of growth that happens with the nail as well. I'm sure everyone can kind of attest to that. I would suggest that you draw and create some lines that go from this part and away for 2 reasons. Number one, the nail actually naturally has these lines that do exist, but the other reason is because we want to create some shadows and shading around the nail and keep this part as white as possible and keep the tip of the nail as white as possible as well. We're going to do that with some smudge technique, but for now, just getting the lines on here will help us before we smudge it out, okay? Okay, so we started that process. Just grab your finger and just kind of go back and forth like this, and then side to side. That's exactly what you want to do. You want to leave some of these lines existing, but still create enough shadows and shading so that this white part still exists, right? Okay, so we're going to keep at it. I'm not drawing the whole thumb. We're just drawing the thumbnail portion as well as the joint. So I would just say that in order to keep this looking a little more realistic too, you can add some curved piece over here, and then bring this down as well. Okay. You might also create some lighter lines over here. Okay. And you might also create just the ever slightest, skin lines that exist like this, okay? Every thumb is a bit different, but in this case, I'm just drawing one that I think, looks fairly realistic, and hopefully you're seeing that as well, okay? There is a bit of a thinner line as you go away and thickness in the middle. So what I'm going to do is sharpen my 5B. Okay. And I'm actually just going to add a bit of shadow, because this is actually a ridge inside the thumb nail in between these 2 skin pieces. So that's exactly what I'm doing over here, okay? The great thing about drawing a thumb like this is that every thumb is different. So the way that you draw it could look perfectly fine, even if you want to create some, randomness to it and just some variations that you think look great on your end as well, okay? They say that 20 to 30% of people actually bite their nails. So that's something that's quite interesting as well. Let's create some shadows on the side. I'm a big fan of just bringing the lines up like this, and we'll use some smudging to kind of make it look a little more realistic as well. So, so bring that up like that. You can also just create just the slightest bit of edginess right over here, and this is where the skin kind of you know, overlaps on the side, and you might want to create just enough shadows on here so that it looks like that part is kind of connected to the rest of the skin, right? You want this piece over here to look like it is, you know, connected and one, really. You don't want it to look like it's just kind of floating, so you can do that like that, and you can just kind of smudge it out, and just hopefully it looks, you know, as realistic as possible. And that's just what I did over there. Okay. You could do the same as you continue, like that skin that's on the outside, you can just continue it like this. Because remember that nail should really stay somewhat white in color. And that's the reason that I'm just being so careful right here. And of course, I'm taking my time. I'm not by no means in a rush to kind of pull this all together super quick. I want it to look, you know, fairly realistic. So hopefully you see that as well. And I'm just carefully smudging around the edge because I do want to keep that nail looking pretty white over there as well, okay? Now, the interesting thing about some of these lines on the nail is that some of these lines continue into that white piece as well. So there's nothing wrong with going back and just reestablishing some of these lines that go back. So let's do that. And in fact, there's some, you know, lines that might actually be just the ever slightest bit stronger than others. So there's nothing wrong with saying, you know, let's make a couple or a line a little stronger than others. In fact, I think my own thumbnail has just like a slight kind of line right there. So I'll try to make it realistic if we can. Okay. Great. You might find it helpful to just create a line just like this and just another line just like that. It will also make your thumbnail look, your thumb drawing look a lot more realistic. And we're just going to continue using our smudge technique to really make this and draw this out and make it look as realistic as possible. Okay. A lot of historians say that fingernails are really just flat claws. So kind of like evolution over time kind of went from like claws to like nails. So, you know, there was no need for claws millions of years ago, and evolution started to change, and they say that the need for them changed, and you know, some historians say that the nail is just an evolved claw, which is kind of interesting. I never thought of it that way, but I suppose that certainly can have some truth to it. So quite interesting. I'm just going to add a little more curvature to the side as well. I think the thumb definitely has some curvature to it as opposed to some of the other fingernails that would exist. So in doing so, I just want to maybe, you know, just kind of add in a little more shading to this and just kind of bring this out as well. And I might also want to do that over here. think that white part of the nail kind of disappeared. I think I want to just get my eraser back in there and just kind of bring out a little bit of it. And I think just fixing it up is a really good idea if you're doing that as well. You can also just go over the cuticle, which is the piece over here, and just redraw some of those pieces as well. Just like that, okay? And it doesn't have to be perfect. You can actually create the ever slightest little bit of imperfections when you draw that. It's actually perfectly fine. So we'll just make sure that some of those lines that we did put, we'll just make sure that they are still showing. And I know I'm trying not to re-smudge everything, but yeah, definitely you can do that as well. I think as we start to finish up this drawing, you might want to just take your pencil and just look at some of the areas that you feel are just a little bit off, and just kind of go back and you know, reshade them, right? So that's all I'm doing right now. Even the nail, it is nice to kind of re-establish some of the outlines, especially with the nail. So that's all I'm doing. It's really all I'm doing. It's not too complicated. But again, there's no point of rushing this or trying to get it done for the sake of just saying that it's done. Like in all the drawings we do here, like I want them to be done properly. So I'm not really trying to rush anything by any means here. So hopefully you feel the same way. Hopefully you're just kind of watching and drawing along and kind of seeing this come together. So hopefully you're enjoying. Let us know in the comments. Leave a comment, let us know. We would love to hear from you. We always do. The other thing that we can do is, if these parts here are a little higher up, we could actually create, let me get a 5B. We can actually just create a little bit more shadowing just behind it. And what that'll do is it'll make this look like it's higher up, which in fact, in reality, it is just the tiniest bit higher up anyway, right? So I'm just gonna go side to side, and there's some flatness in the middle, but then there's some curvature on the sides. So I'm kind of creating this pattern. The pattern kind of looks like this. If you're wondering. But then as I get farther away from the joint, I might actually make that pattern more like a round shape as well. So I might actually move it as I get away to more of a rounder shape and create a bit more effect as well. So that's all I'm doing here. And I'm gonna move back and just keep that going. So you can see that coming together as well. Now, because I did that with this piece over here, which I want to just reestablish that as well, you know, I might feel like I want to just do that over here. This is looking a bit light in color. So what I can do is I can actually fix that up in a second. What I'm doing is bringing out some of the shadows. So some of these shadow lines that exist, I don't want them to just look like lines that I drew. I actually want them to look like they're crevices or they're shadows that are moving off the page. And in doing so, I'm just bringing out some of the shadows, like just pulling them out, if that makes sense. So if there was a line, I don't want the line to look like that. I want to bring out the shadow. So if this was a line over here, I might want to get some lines out like that. And that's what I'm doing in that area. So you can see how inside the crevice, the shadow actually comes out. I'm pulling it out. So that's kind of what I'm doing over here. It's really meticulous and it's kind of really hard to do, but if you can do that right, it does actually look quite well, looks quite good. So use your smudge technique to kind of let the lead move around. So I did that over there, and I think I might want to just do the same thing just over here. And it's so meticulous, like you just have to keep, I call it pulling the shadow out, like just start inside and move your pencil away. Use your smudge technique to kind of do that. And I think we'll just do the ever so slightest bit over here. And you don't really see that over here. Some of these fine lines that I was talking about, they really don't have that level of shadowing on them. So some of the lighter ones we might just keep over here. Okay. How are you doing? Are you drawing or are you watching? Let us know in the comments. We love hearing from you. Let us know how it's going. I think the last thing I might do is just take some of the pencil shading and just kind of pull this together just by adding a little bit over here. I think it's too light and I'm feeling like it's not looking quite right. So I'm just gonna create some shading over here. Simple as that, really. And I'll use my smudge technique to kind of go back and forth. But notice how I stopped over here. I want this part to look a little bit lighter. So in doing so, I'm just gonna actually continue to bring some of these, or what I call pull some of these shadows out from the sides. But I want those shadows to kind of exist just a little bit more over here, not so much on the top. So that's what I'm doing. So it's starting to come together. There's still a few things that I'm not entirely happy with, and I think that's part of it is the thumbnail. I want to get this thumbnail just looking just a little bit better, and in doing so I want maybe this part to be a bit darker. I'm going to start along that line that you can see and move away. And just repeat. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly white in there. There's nothing wrong with smudging a bit and letting some of that go in, but you don't want too much of that to go away. So that's basically what I'm gonna do right there. And like before, just kind of making sure that some of those lines that you put on are just still there. I think it'll look a little more realistic that way as well. So I would say like the very last thing that you might want to do is just add on like the tiniest few little slivers of hair that might exist just over here. So we can kind of leave it like that, and we can kind of finish it up like that. So I'm just thinking if there's anything else that I might want to add. I think just at the last kind of bit over here, I might want to bring back some of these colors back onto the nail. So, sorry, some of these shades back onto the nail. So what I might do is on this line, that line that I'm starting at, pull back. So get the pencil and go backwards. It was just a bit of disconnect there. I wasn't too happy with it. So in my opinion, that looks a lot better already. And now at this point, I think I might just try to let it, yeah. So I think that's starting to look just a little bit better. Now, if we want to create just a bit more curvature in this space, I would say that we can add just a little more shading on the sides of the nail. So there's nothing wrong with maybe having this piece just a little bit darker. In fact, I might even just jump over to my 8B and just literally get a few lines in on the side. And same over here, and just let some of that create that like 3D effect that would exist. So you know, you can be a little bit darker on the sides, and in the middle is just a little bit lighter. Just that ever so slightest little bit of change can really make this look a lot more realistic. So that's all I'm doing. Smudge it out. Smudge it out. You can see right away that that also gives it a bit more of a 3D effect. If you're not entirely happy with it, you can just continue adding just a few more until you're, you know, 100% firmly happy with it. So, yeah. So for me, I'm pretty happy with that look. It gives it just that extra slightest little bit of 3D effect, doesn't it? That darker spot on the side really, you know, really starts to look a lot more realistic, right? Okay, well, I think, you know, we had a pretty good lesson here. I don't know, you could always just like clean up just a few of these lines. It might just look a little bit, just a tiny bit more realistic if you can, but don't overdo it either. Just the slightest little bit of cleaning up can go a long, long way. So. That's all I'm really doing right here. That's it. I mean, I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. Hopefully you are too. Let's just clean up the sides. How are you doing? Let us know in the comments. I know I said that earlier, but now that we're at the end of the drawings, like, let us know how it went for you. How did it go? Did you have any challenges? What are your biggest challenges when drawing, you know, thumbs? Do you have a lot of challenges? Are you pretty good with them? A lot of people that message us say, you know, draw hands and draw thumbs and draw fingers. That's like their biggest challenge. So if you're watching and that's you, thanks for letting us know, and let us know if this is helping, because certainly, you know, we do this to try to help as well, and we want you to learn. So hopefully it is a help. Hopefully this is something that, you know, you're really benefiting from. It takes time too. Like, this video is at 28 minutes. You know, I certainly, you know, personally hope that you're getting a lot out of it, and it doesn't hurt to learn a few facts as well. For me, the claw thing was interesting. Like, I didn't know that before. I'm not going to pretend that I knew that beforehand. So, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about it too. So. Yeah, so hopefully you're really enjoying this, enjoying all the videos. We're pretty much putting up a new video every single day, so hopefully you're noticing that as well. And that's it. So at this point, I'll say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.